Hello, my friends. Welcome to Nehemiah Day 3 as we are getting ready for Handbrake Legacy Live. This is some of the groundwork that we're laying as we're going to carry this theme of Nehemiah and rebuilding the walls all the way through this event. And I'm really excited to be able to have the opportunity to come in here in the Facebook group even before the event starts and be able to share some of these inspirational thoughts with you all. So today is day number 3, and we're talking about the silence that happens in our business. The silence. How many of you have had those thoughts like, I put this out there and it's crickets. I'm doing all the work, but nothing's happening. It's so quiet right now. How come nobody sees what I'm here for? How come nobody sees what I'm doing? Right? And we get a little bit like wanting to kick back at that silence. God, don't you know what you're doing? Right? But I want us to look at Nehemiah. And I want us to look at what he did as he was preparing to do this work God was calling him to that he was not qualified for. And I want us to learn from this moment of silence that he went through how to appreciate those moments of silence in our own business. So today we're in Nehemiah chapter 2, and I want us to recognize the silent parts of our business. There's times that God gives us a vision and maybe it's not time to share it. There's times that we're doing everything we can to move the vision, to do the work, and there's still silence. And there's times when God is calling you to be silent when you want to be talking. And there's a reason for that. And so in Nehemiah chapter 2, he's arrived at Jerusalem. On his way, he stopped and talked to the people that the king gave letters for to get their help in providing materials. Right? He gets to Jerusalem. And in chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, it says, so I went to Jerusalem and I was there for 3 days. He still hasn't told people why he's here. Okay. He arrives without fanfare. However, he does have protection from the king's soldiers with him, which I find very interesting. But he's there for 3 whole days without telling people there yet what he's doing. He says, I arose in the night and I had a few men with me. I told no one what my God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. There was no animal with me except the one on which I rode. And I went out by night into the valley gate, to the dragon spring, to the dung gate, and I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that were broken down and its gates that had been destroyed with fire. Then I went to the fountain gate and the king's pool, and there was no room for the animal that was under me to even pass because of the rubble there. Then I went up by night to the valley and inspected all of the wall, and I turned back and entered the valley gate, and so I returned. And the officials did not even know what I had done or where I had gone or what I was doing, as I had not yet told the Jews and the priests and the nobles and the officials and the rest of them who were going to do the work. All right. So what did he do? He went out by night and inspected the work. He went out silently. There was no talking. There was inspection. All right. And part of this was because he was still trying to remain under the radar of the enemies. Remember, this is a city that is broken down and in rubble. All right. They have no protection. If the enemy saw them out at night, who knows what would happen? So he's going out by night so as not to draw attention, so as not to create a fuss, so as not to have questions. And he's evaluating the work that is ahead. He's taking measurements. He's looking at what's available in terms for them to reuse of materials, right? He's taking stock in what is before them and the amount of the task and the places that need work. And he's taking all of this in before he's even announced to anyone why he's there and what it is that God has called him to do. And so God has given him the vision. He doesn't appear to have much, but he's got prayer. And a lot of us feel like the world is looking at us like we don't have much, and yet we serve the living God. We feel like we're doing this and nothing's happening, and yet this is the silence. This is the preparation time. This is the darkness before the dawn in which God is working, in which he's allowing us to take stock and evaluate and make plans for what is to come. One of the wisest things you can do before starting a project or a new journey is to pause and evaluate. Instead of, for some of us, that means, the evaluation means saying yes to some things. For others of us, it means saying no. What did Nehemiah say no to? He said no to his whole existence. His whole life and livelihood was back in the king's palace. And he said no to that for a time to go and do what God was calling him to do. What did he say yes to? He said yes to a dangerous journey. He said yes to unknowns. He said yes to a job he wasn't prepared for, but he knew God was calling him to this. When we started our business in Mexico, we said yes to things that we didn't know we were prepared for either. We had no clue how to do business. We didn't know where this journey was going. And yet every step of the way, God provided what we needed. And those silent moments in which we were evaluating what we were doing and crying out to God to do something with this that he'd put in our hearts and our hands. Those were the moments before the dawn. Those were the moments before the victories. And they were necessary moments in the journey. And I know there's some of you who are watching this, who are feeling this right now. You're struggling in the darkness, wondering if God sees. And he sees. And that's why you're here. Because he wants to show you what his plans are. And that he's already providing the provision and the path and the community and the workers to help you do what you were called to do. There's no right or wrong answers when we're evaluating what's ahead of us. There's no way some of us can even know all the details to come. But the evaluation and the planning is biblical. And being willing to take it to the Lord in the silence, in the darkness, and say, I'm here, and I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do because of this passion and this vision that you've given me. That's what God wants from his people. Consider this vision that you have. Consider where he's taking you. Consider the dangers. Consider the limitations. And then consider your God and how big he is. Take some stock in your business today. What is it that you need? What is it that you need going into this event? Before I go to events, I sit down and I say, okay, what do I need to learn? Who's going to be there that I need to talk to? What questions do I need answers for? And prepare for this event. Because this is one of the ways that God is raising up a community around you and your business. The people that you meet here, some of our long-term best friends, partners in business have come from events like this. Who do you need to meet? What questions do you need answers to? What things do you need to learn to move your business forward? Take some time in this silence before the event starts and ask yourself these questions. Ask the Lord these questions. If you got a spouse or a partner in the business, ask these questions with them. What do we need to learn to take our next step to do what God's called us to do? Who do we need to talk to? What questions do we need to get answered? And how could we make this happen? Maybe you don't feel qualified. God rarely calls the qualified. He rarely calls the qualified. In most of us, he is qualifying us in the journey of doing the thing he's called us to do. Because he says, faithful is he that calls you, who also will do it. He is the faithful one. He is the one that does the work. He is the one who qualifies in the midst of the journey of the calling. And just as Nehemiah went out and spent that time with the Lord, walking around the city, evaluating the work that was ahead, praying over the job, we also need to be walking the walls of our business. We need to be walking around, taking stock, evaluating the work that is to be done, bringing that before the Lord, spending that time, praying over it. You have a home office? Have any of you walked around that office praying over the office space? That God would be there, that his presence would fill it, that he would fill you with wisdom as you work? You have a home shop? You have a storefront somewhere, you have an art studio, you have a place that you physically are when you do business. Have you walked around that and covered it in prayer? We need to be walking our walls. We need to be evaluating the work, giving it to God, and then going back with his wisdom to make our plans known to those who are going to help us in the work. And that's coming tomorrow in the next set. I hope that you're enjoying these. I hope that the Holy Spirit will take his words from this. If you can go and read Nehemiah, it'd be amazing if you could read through the book of Nehemiah every day from now until next week. It'll sink in just that much further because God's words and how he worked in the past is what instructs our hope for now and for our future. He's doing an amazing thing in you. And I'm so glad that you're here. You're in the right place. And I can't wait to get to know you better and share more of this as we lead into this spiritual basis here for what we're doing with our practical strategies in marketing at this event. So thank you guys. Thank you for those that are watching live. Thank you for those that are on the replay. I appreciate you. And don't forget to keep inviting friends and keep praying over this event that's coming up and all the opportunities that God has ahead of you. Some big things in store. And I'm super excited. God bless you guys. Have a great evening.